the housekeeper found a photo of her mother in a mansion. The truth left her speechless. The morning sun filtered softly through the grand windows of the Anderson mansion, casting long shadows across the polished floors. Marianne, as usual, was moving through her daily routine with a quiet diligence. She had worked as a housekeeper in the mansion for years, and she knew every corner of the place. Or so she thought. That day, something drew her toward the West Wing, a section of the mansion rarely mentioned and even less frequently visited. As she approached the heavy wooden door that led to a room that had been locked for as long as she could remember, Marianne hesitated. The door was slightly ajar, a rare sight that piqued her curiosity. Gathering her courage, she pushed it open and stepped inside. The room was dimly lit, with dust particles dancing in the rays of light that sneaked through the thick drapes. The air was heavy with the scent of old wood and forgotten memories. Marianne's eyes swept across the room, taking in the covered furniture and the forgotten relics of the past. Everything was draped in white sheets, as if the room itself had been put to sleep. But something on the far side of the room caught her attention. A small, ornate desk, its surface bare except for a single photograph resting on top. Her footsteps echoed softly as she crossed the room, her heart pounding in her chest. When she reached the desk, she picked up the photograph with trembling hands. The edges were worn and the image was slightly faded, but the faces were unmistakable. Her breath caught in her throat as she recognized the woman in the photo, her mother. Standing beside her mother was none other than Mr. Anderson, the patriarch of the family. Marianne felt a rush of emotions, shock, confusion, and a deep sense of unease. She had always believed her mother had lived a quiet, simple life before she was born, but this photo suggested otherwise. Why had her mother never mentioned knowing the Andersons? And why was this photograph hidden away in a locked room? Marianne quickly slipped the photograph into her pocket, her mind racing with questions. She knew she couldn't leave things as they were. She had to find out the truth, no matter what it cost her. The image of her mother, standing so close to Mr. Anderson, wouldn't leave her mind. Why had her mother kept this secret? Leaving the room, Marianne felt the weight of the photograph pressing against her side, a constant reminder that her life was about to change. She returned to her duties, but her thoughts were elsewhere. She moved mechanically through the rest of the day, her mind replaying the moment she found the photograph over and over again. Each time the questions grew louder, demanding answers. As the day wore on, Marianne realized she would need to confront Mr. Anderson. It was the only way to get the answers she needed. But how would she approach him? Mr. Anderson was a powerful man, respected and feared by many, and she was just a housekeeper. Would he even acknowledge her questions? The hours passed slowly, and by the time Marianne finished her work, she had made up her mind. She would speak to Mr. Anderson the next day. There was no turning back now. The photograph had opened a door to a past she never knew existed, and Marianne couldn't rest until she uncovered the truth. That night, Marianne lay in bed, staring at the ceiling of her small, modest room. The mansion was quiet, the only sound the distant ticking of a clock somewhere in the hall. She reached into her pocket and pulled out the photograph, holding it up to the dim light of her bedside lamp. The faces of her mother and Mr. Anderson stared back at her, frozen in time. Marianne's thoughts drifted to her mother, a woman who had raised her alone, never speaking of the past, never revealing the pain she must have endured. Marianne had always assumed her mother had lived a simple life before she was born, but now she knew that wasn't true. There was a story here, one that had been buried for years, and Marianne was determined to uncover it. With a deep breath, she tucked the photograph under her pillow. Tomorrow, she would confront Mr. Anderson, and no matter what, she would get the answers she needed. The truth had been hidden long enough. It was time to bring it to light. The next morning, Marianne awoke with a sense of determination she hadn't felt before. The photograph beneath her pillow was the first thing on her mind. She got ready for work, her usual routine feeling strangely distant as she mentally prepared herself for the confrontation that awaited her. As she moved through the mansion, polishing surfaces and straightening furniture, Marianne kept an eye out for Mr. Anderson. She knew his schedule well, He was usually in his study during the early hours, reviewing documents or making calls. Today, however, she noticed that he was unusually quiet, no signs of activity in his usual haunts. Finally, she gathered the courage to head toward the study, the photograph tucked securely in her apron pocket. Her heart pounded as she approached the door, the weight of what she was about to do bearing down on her. But she couldn't back out now. The truth had been hidden for too long and she needed answers. Marianne knocked softly on the door, her hand trembling slightly. After a moment of silence, she heard Mr. Anderson's deep voice invite her in. She pushed the door open and stepped inside, the familiar scent of leather-bound books and old wood filling the room. Mr. Anderson sat behind his massive oak desk, his eyes narrowing slightly as he looked up at her. "Marianne," he said, his tone polite but slightly puzzled. "What can I do for you?" Marianne hesitated for a moment, feeling the weight of the photograph in her pocket. Then, with a deep breath, she pulled it out and placed it on the desk in front of him. "I found this yesterday," she said quietly, her voice steady despite the storm of emotions inside her. "I think you need to explain." Mr. Anderson's expression changed the moment his eyes landed on the photograph. His face paled, and he seemed to age in an instant, the years catching up to him all at once. He picked up the photograph with a trembling hand, staring at it as if he couldn't believe what he was seeing. The room fell into a heavy silence, the tension thickening the air. After what felt like an eternity, Mr. Anderson finally looked up at Marianne, his eyes filled with something she couldn't quite identify: regret, sorrow, guilt. "Where did you find this?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "In one of the old rooms," Marianne replied. "It was in a drawer, hidden away." Mr. Anderson nodded slowly, his gaze drifting back to the photograph. "I should have known this day would come," he said, more to himself than to her. "I just didn't expect it to be like this." Marianne felt a flicker of sympathy for the man in front of her, but she pushed it aside. She needed answers. "Who is she to you?" she asked, her voice firm. "Why was this hidden away?" Mr. Anderson sighed heavily, setting the photograph down on the desk. He looked at Marianne, his eyes tired and filled with an overwhelming sadness. "That woman. She was your mother," he began, his voice thick with emotion. "And she was the love of my life." Marianne's breath caught in her throat. She had suspected as much, but hearing the words come from Mr. Anderson himself made it all the more real. She waited, her heart pounding in her chest as he continued. "Your mother and we had a relationship many years ago, long before you were born," Mr. Anderson confessed, his voice laced with regret. "It was a love that was never meant to be, given the circumstances. She was a housekeeper in this very mansion, just as you are now. But the differences in our social standings made it impossible for us to be together openly." Marianne listened in stunned silence, the pieces of the puzzle slowly falling into place. Her mother had always been quiet about her past, but now Marianne understood why. She had been protecting a secret so deep, so intertwined with the lives of the Andersons, that it could have shattered everything. "What happened?" Marianne asked, her voice softening slightly. Mr. Anderson closed his eyes for a moment as if gathering the strength to continue. "My wife, Clara's mother, found out about our relationship," he said, his voice heavy with the weight of the past. "She forced me to choose between my family and the woman I loved. I was a coward, Marianne. I chose to maintain appearances to keep my life intact at the expense of the love I had with your mother." He paused, his voice breaking slightly. "I let her go, and it's a decision I've regretted every single day since. But I never forgot her, never stopped loving her, and when I found out she had left the city, I knew it was because she couldn't bear to stay here, where we could never be together." Marianne's heart ached as she listened to his words, understanding for the first time the depth of the pain her mother must have felt. But there was still so much she didn't know. "And me?" she asked, her voice trembling. "What about me?" Mr. Anderson's eyes filled with tears, something Marianne had never seen in the man before. "When I found out she was pregnant, she was already gone," he said quietly. "I tried to find her, to bring her back, but she had disappeared without a trace. I never knew you existed, Marianne. Not until now." The room fell into a heavy silence, both of them processing the enormity of the truth that had just been revealed. Marianne felt a mix of emotions: anger, sorrow, and a deep sense of loss for the life she never knew she could have had. Mr. Anderson reached across the desk, taking her hand in his. "I'm so sorry, Marianne," he said, his voice choked with emotion. "For everything. If I could go back and change things, I would. But I can't. All I can do now is try to make things right." Marianne looked into his eyes and saw the sincerity there. She knew this was just the beginning of a long and painful journey. But at least now, she had the truth. And with that, she had the strength to move forward. The revelation of the previous day weighed heavily on Marianne's mind as she went about her duties the next morning. The truth that Mr. Anderson had confessed still echoed in her thoughts. But now, there was a new tension in the air. The secret was out, and Marianne knew it was only a matter of time before the rest of the Anderson family found out. As she made her way through the mansion, she couldn't help but notice how different everything felt. The walls that had once seemed to protect the Anderson family's secrets now felt suffocating, as if they were closing in around her. She had no idea what would happen next, but she was certain that the peace of the mansion was about to be shattered. Marianne's thoughts were interrupted when she heard voices coming from the sitting room. She paused outside the door, recognizing the sharp tone of Clara Anderson's voice. Clara, the eldest daughter of Mr. Anderson, was known for her fierce loyalty to the family and her determination to protect its reputation at all costs. Marianne felt a knot form in her stomach as she listened. "I don't understand why Father would even consider something like this." Clara's voice was cold and controlled, but Marianne could hear the anger simmering just below the surface. How could he think for a second that she belongs here? Marianne's heart pounded as she realized Clara must have found out about her. She had known this moment was coming, but it didn't make it any easier to face. Gathering her courage, she stepped into the room, her eyes meeting Clara's steely gaze. Clara stood in the center of the room, her posture rigid and her expression a mix of disbelief and fury. She was impeccably dressed as always, her appearance as flawless as her reputation. But there was a hardness in her eyes that sent a shiver down Marianne's spine. "You," Clara hissed, her voice dripping with disdain. "How dare you show your face here after what you've done?" Marianne felt a surge of anger rise within her, but she kept her voice steady. "I haven't done anything wrong, Clara. I'm just here to do my job." Clara's lips curled into a sneer. "Your job? Do you think I don't know what you're up to? You've managed to fool my father, but you won't fool me. I know exactly what you're after." Marianne took a deep breath, trying to keep her emotions in check. "I'm not after anything, Clara. I'm just trying to understand the truth about my past." "The truth?" Clara scoffed, her voice sharp as a blade. "The truth is that you're nothing but an opportunist, trying to worm your way into this family for your own gain. But let me make one thing very clear. You don't belong here, and you never will." The words stung, but Marianne refused to back down. "I didn't ask for any of this, Clara. I didn't choose to be born into this situation. But now that I know the truth, I have every right to be here and to claim what's mine." Clara's eyes flashed with fury and she took a step closer, her voice low and threatening. "If you think for 1 second that I'll let you ruin everything my family has built, you're sorely mistaken. I'll do whatever it takes to protect what's ours, and if that means getting rid of you, then so be it." Marianne's heart raced, but she stood her ground. She had expected resistance, but she hadn't anticipated the sheer intensity of Clara's hatred. It was clear that this was going to be a fight, and Clara was determined to win at any cost. Before Marianne could respond, Mr. Anderson entered the room, his presence immediately commanding attention. He looked between his daughter and Marianne, his expression grave. "What's going on here?" Clara turned to her father, her voice softening but still laced with anger. "Father, this woman doesn't belong here. She's trying to take advantage of you, and I won't stand by and let her tear this family apart." Mr. Anderson's gaze settled on Marianne, his eyes filled with a mix of sorrow and determination. "Clara, Marianne has as much right to be here as you do. She's your sister, and it's time we acknowledge that." The words hung in the air like a bombshell. Clara's face paled, and for a moment, Marianne thought she might faint. But then the anger returned, more intense than before. "Sister," she spat. "She is not my sister. She's a nobody, a mistake that should have been left in the past." Mr. Anderson's expression hardened. "Clara, that's enough. I made mistakes, and I'm trying to make things right. Marianne is a part of this family whether you like it or not, and you will treat her with the respect she deserves." Clara's eyes blazed with fury, but she didn't argue further. Instead, she turned on her heel and stormed out of the room, her footsteps echoing angrily down the hall. The tension in the room remained thick, and Marianne felt a mix of relief and fear. She had won this round, but she knew Clara wasn't going to give up easily. Mr. Anderson sighed heavily, rubbing a hand over his face. "I'm sorry you had to go through that, Marianne," he said quietly. "Clara, she's protective of this family, but she'll come around. She just needs time." Marianne nodded, though she wasn't so sure. "I understand, Mr. Anderson, but I'm not going anywhere. I have just as much right to be here as anyone else." Mr. Anderson gave her a tired smile. "You're right, and I'm glad you're staying. We have a lot to work through, but we'll do it together." Marianne watched as he left the room, feeling a renewed sense of resolve. The battle with Clara was far from over, but Marianne was determined to stand her ground. She was part of this family now, whether Clara liked it or not, and she wasn't going to let anyone take that away from her. The days that followed the confrontation with Clara were tense. Marianne could feel the weight of the hostility that Clara had unleashed hanging over the mansion. The other staff members had started to look at her differently, their glances filled with a mix of curiosity and wariness. Marianne knew that Clara's influence ran deep, and she realized she couldn't face this battle alone. She needed allies, people who would support her in the fight to claim her rightful place in the Anderson family. But finding those allies would be no easy task. The Andersons had ruled over their household with an iron grip for decades, and the staff was loyal to them, especially to Clara, who was known for her demanding but fair treatment of those who served her. Marianne decided to start with the one person she believed might have some sympathy for her situation, Emily, the youngest of the Anderson siblings. Emily was different from her older sister. Where Clara was cold and calculating, Emily had always seemed more approachable, even kind. Marianne had seen her kindness in small gestures, a smile here, a friendly word there. She hoped that Emily might be willing to listen, to see the situation from a different perspective. One afternoon, Marianne found Emily in the garden, sitting on a bench with a book in her lap. The garden was one of the few places in the mansion that still felt peaceful to Marianne. The flowers were in full bloom, filling the air with a sweet fragrance that was almost soothing. Marianne hesitated for a moment, then approached. "Emily." Marianne's voice was tentative, not wanting to startle her. Emily looked up, a smile touching her lips when she saw Marianne. "Marianne, hello. Is everything all right?" Marianne took a deep breath and nodded. "I was wondering if I could talk to you about everything that's been happening." Emily's smile faded slightly, and she closed her book, setting it aside. "Of course. Sit down." She gestured to the spot next to her on the bench. Marianne sat, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. For a moment, she didn't know where to begin, but then the words started to flow. She told Emily everything, about the photograph, the truth Mr. Anderson had revealed, and the confrontation with Clara. As she spoke, Emily listened intently, her expression growing more serious with each passing moment. When Marianne finished, there was a long silence. Emily seemed to be processing everything she had just heard. Marianne felt her heart pounding in her chest, wondering if she had made a mistake in confiding in her. Finally, Emily spoke, her voice soft but firm. "I knew something was going on, but I didn't know it was this. I'm so sorry, Marianne." Marianne blinked, surprised by the apology. "Sorry? You don't have to apologize. None of this is your fault." Emily shook her head. "No, but it's my family. And I know how difficult Clara can be. She's always been protective of the family, of our reputation. But that doesn't make what she's doing right." Marianne felt a wave of relief wash over her. Emily's words were like a lifeline, giving her hope that she wasn't alone in this fight. "Thank you, Emily. I wasn't sure how you'd react." Emily smiled gently. "I'm glad you told me. And for what it's worth, I think you have every right to be here. Your family, Marianne, whether Clara likes it or not." Marianne nodded, feeling a sense of validation she hadn't expected. "I don't want to cause trouble. I just want to understand where I came from, and maybe, if it's possible, find a place here." Emily reached out and squeezed Marianne's hand. "You have a place here, and I'll do what I can to help you. But you should know that Clara isn't going to back down easily. She's stubborn, and she's used to getting her way." "I know," Marianne replied, "but I can't just walk away. Not now." Emily nodded, understanding the resolve in Marianne's voice. "Then we'll face this together. You're not alone." As the two women sat in the garden, the sun setting behind the mansion, Marianne felt a glimmer of hope. Emily's support was a crucial first step, but she knew she would need more allies if she was going to stand against Clara and claim her place in the family. Over the next few days, Marianne quietly began to reach out to other members of the household staff. She chose her confidants carefully, focusing on those who had been with the family for many years and who had known her mother. To her relief, she found that many of them remembered Isabel fondly. They had respected her, admired her strength and kindness, and they were saddened to hear about the hardships she had faced. One of the first to offer his support was George, the head groundskeeper. George had been with the Anderson family for as long as anyone could remember, and he had always had a soft spot for Marianne's mother. When Marianne approached him in the gardens, his gruff exterior softened as she explained her situation. "I remember your mother well," George said, his voice rough with emotion. "She was a good woman, strong too. It doesn't surprise me one bit that she raised someone like you. If there's anything I can do to help you, just let me know." Marianne felt a surge of gratitude. "Thank you, George. It means a lot to me." As the days passed, more and more of the staff began to quietly rally around Marianne. They shared stories of her mother, offered words of encouragement, and most importantly, provided her with the strength she needed to keep fighting. Even those who were hesitant at first eventually came around, swayed by the loyalty and respect they had once held for Isabel. With each new ally, Marianne felt her confidence grow. She was no longer the outsider, the interloper that Clara wanted her to be. She was part of the Anderson family, and she had every intention of proving it. But as the support for Marianne grew, so did Clara's determination to bring her down. Marianne knew that the battle was far from over, but with Emily and the staff behind her, she finally felt like she had a fighting chance. As the days passed, Marianne felt the mansion's atmosphere shift. What had once been a place of isolation and uncertainty was now becoming a battleground of wills. With Emily and several of the household staff on her side, Marianne found herself more determined than ever to uncover the truth about her mother's past and secure her rightful place in the Anderson family. But the more she dug into the family's history, the more she realized just how deeply the secrets ran. She knew there was more to uncover, something that would help her finally put all the pieces together. She just needed to find it. One evening, Marianne decided to return to the West Wing, where she had first discovered the photograph. It was a part of the mansion that was rarely used, and she suspected there might be more hidden there. Armed with a flashlight and a resolve to uncover the truth, she made her way to the forgotten rooms. The air was thick with dust as she pushed open the door to the old study, the same room where she had found the photograph of her mother and Mr. Anderson. The room felt different now, as if it were holding its breath, waiting for her to uncover what it had kept hidden for so long. Marianne began to search the room methodically, opening drawers, checking behind old paintings and flipping through the pages of forgotten books. The more she searched, the more she became convinced that there was something significant hidden here, something that could change everything. Her heart skipped a beat when she discovered a hidden compartment in the back of a bookshelf. It was cleverly concealed, blending in seamlessly with the wood. She pried it open, revealing a small box covered in dust. Carefully, she pulled it out and placed it on the desk. With trembling hands, Marianne opened the box. Inside, she found a stack of letters tied with a faded ribbon. They were old, the paper yellowed with age, but the writing was still legible. The letters were addressed to Isabel, her mother. Marianne's breath caught in her throat as she carefully unfolded the first letter. It was from Mr. Anderson, written in a handwriting she recognized. As she read the words on the page, her eyes filled with tears. The letters were love letters, written during the time her mother had worked at the mansion. They spoke of a deep, forbidden love, of plans to leave everything behind and start a new life together. But as Marianne continued to read, the tone of the letters changed. The love and hope in the early letters gave way to fear and desperation. Mr. Anderson had written about the pressure from his family, especially from his wife, to end the relationship. He spoke of threats, of being forced to choose between his love for Isabel and his duty to his family. The final letter was the most heartbreaking of all. It was a letter of goodbye, written just before Isabel left the mansion for good. Marianne's hands shook as she held the final letter. The pain and regret in Mr. Anderson's words were palpable. He had wanted to be with her mother, but he had been too afraid to defy his family. And now, decades later, Marianne was paying the price for the choices they had made. As she sat in the dim light of the old study, the letters spread out before her. Marianne realized that these letters were more than just remnants of a past love. They were evidence. They proved the depth of the relationship between her mother and Mr. Anderson, and they could potentially challenge Clara's claims that Marianne was nothing more than an opportunist. But Marianne also knew that these letters could cause more harm than good. If they were made public, they could destroy what was left of Mr. Anderson's reputation and further divide the family. She was torn between her desire for justice and her fear of what the truth might do. As she carefully placed the letters back in the box, Marianne knew she needed to talk to Mr. Anderson about what she had found. He needed to know that these letters still existed, and that they held the power to either bring the family together or tear it apart. With the box of letters in hand, Marianne left the study, her mind racing with possibilities. She knew that the next steps she took would be crucial, not just for her, but for the entire Anderson family. The secrets she had uncovered had the potential to change everything, but she had to be careful. One wrong move, and the fragile alliances she had built could crumble. The following morning, Marianne found Mr. Anderson in his study, staring out the window at the vast estate that had been in his family for generations. He looked tired, the weight of his decisions pressing heavily on his shoulders. "Mr. Anderson?" Marianne said softly as she entered the room, holding the box of letters close to her chest. He turned to her, a look of concern in his eyes. "Marianne, what is it?" Without a word, she placed the box on his desk and opened it, revealing the letters inside. Mr. Anderson's face paled as he recognized them. He reached out, his hands trembling, and picked up the top letter, reading the familiar words he had written so long ago. "I found these in a hidden compartment in the old study," Marianne explained. "I thought you should know." Mr. Anderson's eyes filled with tears as he carefully set the letter down. "I never thought I'd see these again," he whispered, his voice choked with emotion. "I wrote these letters to your mother when I thought we still had a chance." Marianne nodded, understanding the pain that came with those memories. "These letters, they could change everything," she said softly. They prove the depth of your relationship with my mother, but they could also cause a lot of damage." Mr. Anderson looked at her, his expression one of deep sadness. "I know," he said quietly, "and I'm so sorry, Marianne. I never wanted you to have to bear the burden of my choices." Marianne took a deep breath, knowing that the decision of what to do next rested on her shoulders. "I don't want to hurt anyone, Mr. Anderson," she said, "but I can't ignore the truth either." Mr. Anderson nodded, his eyes filled with a mix of regret and acceptance. "Whatever you decide, Marianne, I'll support you. I owe you that much." Marianne left the study with the box of letters, knowing that the path ahead would be difficult. The secrets she had uncovered were powerful, but they were also dangerous. She would need to tread carefully if she wanted to protect herself and the family she was slowly becoming a part of. But one thing was clear. Marianne was no longer the same woman who had walked into the mansion as a humble housekeeper. She was stronger now, more determined, and ready to face whatever came next. The tension in the Anderson mansion grew thicker with each passing day. Marianne knew that the discovery of the letters had shifted the balance of power in the ongoing struggle between her and Clara. She had the evidence that could solidify her place in the family, but she also understood the consequences of revealing such secrets. The stakes were higher than ever, and Marianne was aware that Clara would not sit idly by. Indeed, Clara was already plotting her next move. She had always prided herself on being the protector of the Anderson legacy, and she saw Marianne as a direct threat to everything she held dear. The idea that her father could acknowledge Marianne as a legitimate member of the family was intolerable to her. Clara was determined to remove Marianne from the picture once and for all. One morning, as Marianne was tending to her duties, she noticed that the atmosphere in the mansion had become more hostile. The staff, who had started to warm up to her, now seemed distant, their expressions wary. It didn't take long for Marianne to realize that Clara had been working behind the scenes, spreading rumors and planting doubts in the minds of those who had begun to support her. Marianne's suspicions were confirmed when George, the head groundskeeper, approached her with a grave expression. "Marianne," he began cautiously, "I've been hearing things that don't sit right with me." Marianne frowned, her heart sinking. "What kind of things?" George hesitated, clearly uncomfortable. "Clara's been talking to the staff, telling them that you're only here to take advantage of Mr. Anderson's guilt. She's saying you're after the family's money, that you're just pretending to be innocent to gain sympathy." Marianne felt a surge of anger and frustration. "That's not true, George. You know that." "I do," George replied, his expression softening. "But Clara has a way of getting into people's heads. Some of the staff are starting to believe her. They're afraid of what might happen if you really do take a share of the inheritance." Marianne clenched her fists, feeling the weight of Clara's manipulation. She knew Clara was trying to isolate her, to turn everyone against her before she had a chance to defend herself. But Marianne wasn't about to let Clara's lies destroy everything she had worked so hard to achieve. "Thank you for telling me, George," Marianne said, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside her. "I won't let Clara's lies go unchallenged." George nodded, his respect for Marianne evident. "I've got your back, Marianne. Just be careful. Clara's not one to play fair." Marianne spent the rest of the day on edge, aware that she was walking through a minefield. Clara's influence was strong, and the rumors she had spread were already starting to take root. Marianne could see it in the way the staff looked at her, their trust in her beginning to waver. That evening, after most of the household had retired for the night, Marianne decided to confront Clara directly. She found her in the grand sitting room, a glass of wine in hand, her expression cool and composed. Clara looked up as Marianne entered, a smirk playing on her lips. "Marianne," Clara greeted her with false warmth, "to what do I owe the pleasure?" Marianne didn't waste time with pleasantries. "I know what you've been doing, Clara. You're trying to turn everyone against me, spreading lies and rumors, but I'm not going to let you get away with it." Clara's smile widened, as if she had been expecting this confrontation. Lies? Rumors? I'm simply stating the facts as I see them. You come here out of nowhere, claim to be my father's daughter, and suddenly you're entitled to everything? Forgive me if I find that a bit hard to believe. Marianne took a step closer, her voice firm. I'm not after your money, Clara. I never was. I just want the truth to be recognized, to have my mother's memory honored. You're the one who's making this about power and control. Clara's expression hardened, the mask of civility slipping away. You don't belong here, Marianne. My family doesn't owe you anything. My father's guilt has clouded his judgment, but it won't cloud mine. I will do whatever it takes to protect what's rightfully ours. Even if it means lying and manipulating everyone around you, Marianne shot back. Even if it means destroying your own family in the process? Clara's eyes flashed with anger. This family is already destroyed thanks to you, but I will not let you take what's mine. You think you can win my father over with your sob story, but I see right through you. You're nothing but a gold digger, and I'll make sure everyone knows it. Marianne felt her resolve strengthen in the face of Clara's venom. You can call me whatever you want, Clara, but the truth will come out. And when it does, no amount of lies will save you. Clara set her glass down with a sharp clink, rising to her full height. Is that a threat, Marianne? It's a promise, Marianne replied, her voice unwavering. The two women stood facing each other, the tension between them palpable. Clara's expression was one of cold fury, while Marianne's was one of steely determination. Neither was willing to back down, and the room seemed to crackle with the intensity of their standoff. Finally, Clara broke the silence. You've made a mistake, Marianne. You think you can play this game, but you have no idea who you're dealing with. I've protected this family for years, and I'll do whatever it takes to keep it intact. You're not the first person to try and take what's ours, and you won't be the last. But I'll make sure you fail, just like the rest. Marianne met her gaze unflinching. This isn't a game, Clara. This is about my mother's legacy, about the truth that you're so desperate to hide. You can try to intimidate me, but I'm not going anywhere. Clara's eyes narrowed, a dangerous glint in them. We'll see about that. With that, Clara turned on her heel and swept out of the room, leaving Marianne standing alone in the silence. Marianne felt a mix of emotions, anger, frustration, and a deep sadness for what the Anderson family had become. She knew that the battle was far from over, and that Clara would stop at nothing to see her gone. But Marianne also knew that she had something Clara didn't, the truth. And as long as she held on to that, she had a chance. She just had to be careful, to stay one step ahead of Clara's schemes. As Marianne left the sitting room, she resolved to strengthen her alliances with those who supported her. She would need all the help she could get to counter Clara's influence, and most importantly, she needed to find a way to use the letters she had found, those hidden secrets that held the power to change everything. The next few days were a blur of careful planning and strategic moves. Marianne worked closely with Emily and George, sharing her findings and discussing how best to confront Clara's lies. Emily, though shocked by the depth of her sister's deceit, was unwavering in her support for Marianne. Together, they began to subtly counter Clara's narrative, planting seeds of doubt among the staff about the truth of Clara's claims. Emily used her influence with the more neutral members of the family, gently encouraging them to see Marianne as more than just an outsider. George, with his decades of loyalty to the family, quietly rallied the staff who had known Isabel, reminding them of her integrity and kindness. Slowly but surely, the tide began to turn. The staff, who had been swayed by Clara's manipulations, started to see through her facade. Conversations shifted, and Marianne noticed a softening in the way people interacted with her. The looks of suspicion began to fade, replaced by cautious acceptance. But Marianne knew better than to let her guard down. Clara was still a formidable opponent, and Marianne could sense that she was planning something. The letters in the hidden compartment were still Marianne's strongest card, but she had to be careful about how and when to use them. One evening, after another long day of navigating the delicate dynamics of the Anderson household, Marianne sat in her room, the box of letters on the table in front of her. She knew that the time was coming when she would need to reveal their existence, but the decision weighed heavily on her. As she stared at the letters, Marianne made a silent promise to her mother. She would do whatever it took to protect her memory and ensure that the truth was known. No matter what Clara threw at her, she wouldn't back down. The truth was too important, and Marianne was determined to see it through to the end. The Anderson mansion was quieter than usual, the tension that had been building over the past weeks hanging like a heavy cloud over everyone who lived and worked there. Marianne had grown accustomed to the whispers and the wary glances, but she could feel the undercurrent of uncertainty beginning to shift. Her efforts to win over the staff were slowly paying off, and while Clara's influence was still strong, it was no longer absolute. One person who had remained distant throughout the entire ordeal was James, the middle child of the Anderson family. Unlike Clara, James had always kept to himself, avoiding the family's internal politics as much as possible. He was known for his calm demeanor and his preference for solitude, often retreating to his study or spending long hours in the family's library. Marianne had seen him around, but they had rarely exchanged more than a few words. That all changed one afternoon, when Marianne, while organizing the books in the library, found herself in the same room as James. He was seated in one of the leather armchairs, a book open in his lap, though he didn't seem to be reading. Instead, he was staring out the window, lost in thought. Marianne hesitated, unsure whether to approach him. She knew that James had been close to their mother, Clara's ally, but there was something about his demeanor that suggested he was struggling with something. Finally, she decided to take a chance. "James?" Marianne said softly, hoping not to startle him. James looked up, his expression neutral, but not unfriendly. "Marianne," he replied, his voice calm. "I didn't realize you were here." Marianne offered a small smile. "I was just organizing the shelves, but it looks like you have something on your mind." James sighed, closing the book and setting it aside. "I suppose I do," he admitted. "There's been a lot going on lately. Too much, really." Marianne nodded, taking a step closer. "It's been difficult for everyone." James studied her for a moment, his gaze thoughtful. "You've managed to stir up quite a bit of trouble since you arrived." Marianne braced herself, unsure of where this conversation was headed. "I didn't mean to cause any trouble," she said carefully. "I just wanted to find out the truth about my mother and my place in this family." James nodded slowly, as if weighing her words. "I know, and I can't blame you for that. But Clara, she sees things differently. To her, this family's legacy is everything, and she'll do whatever it takes to protect it." "I understand that," Marianne replied, "but what she's doing, spreading lies, manipulating people, it's not right." James sighed again, rubbing a hand over his face. "I know, and I'm beginning to see that she might be taking things too far. But it's hard, you know? Clara's always been the strong one, the one who held everything together. It's hard to go against that." Marianne took a deep breath, sensing that this was her chance to reach out to James. "James, I'm not here to take anything away from your family. I just want to be acknowledged, to have my mother's memory honored. I'm not asking for money or power. I just want to know where I come from." James looked at her, his expression softening. "You're asking for something simple, but in this family nothing is ever simple." "I know," Marianne said quietly, "but it doesn't have to be this way. We can find a way to move forward, to be a family, without tearing each other apart." James leaned back in his chair, his gaze drifting back to the window. "I've been thinking about that a lot lately, about what it means to be a family, about what my father did. I've always admired Clara's strength, but maybe there's more to this than just protecting the family name." Marianne felt a flicker of hope. "James, you're a good person. I can see that. And I believe that you want to do what's right." James was silent for a long moment, lost in thought. Finally, he turned to Marianne, his expression resolute. "You're right. I can't just stand by and let Clara destroy everything in her quest to protect what she thinks is hers. I won't let her hurt you, Marianne." Marianne's heart lifted at his words. "Thank you, James. That means more to me than you know." James nodded, his decision made. "I'm not sure what I can do, but I'll talk to Father. He needs to know that not everyone agrees with Clara. And maybe together we can find a way to make this right." As they sat in the quiet of the library, a tentative alliance began to form between them. Marianne knew that James's support would be crucial in the battles to come. With James on her side, she had a better chance of standing up to Clara and ensuring that the truth would finally be acknowledged. Over the next few days, Marianne noticed a subtle shift in the household. James began to spend more time with Mr. Anderson, and she overheard snippets of their conversations, discussions about the family, about the past, about what needed to be done to move forward. It was clear that James's influence was beginning to have an effect. Clara, however, was not blind to these changes. She watched with growing suspicion as her brother began to distance himself from her, and Marianne could feel the tension building between them. It was only a matter of time before Clara would make her next move, and Marianne knew it would be a decisive one. But for now, she focused on strengthening her alliances, spending time with Emily, George, and the other staff members who had come to support her. The knowledge that James was on her side gave her the confidence to continue pushing forward, even as the storm clouds gathered on the horizon. One evening, as Marianne was preparing to retire for the night, there was a knock at her door. When she opened it, she was surprised to find James standing there, his expression serious. "James," she said, stepping aside to let him in. "Is everything all right?" James hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said, about finding a way to move forward without tearing this family apart. I think I know how we can do that." Marianne's curiosity was piqued. "What do you mean?" James took a deep breath. "I found something that could help us, but it's risky. It's a document, a letter from our mother to Father. It was written just before she died, and it explains everything. It's the proof we need to show that Father wanted to acknowledge you as his daughter, but he was pressured into keeping it a secret." Marianne felt a surge of emotion. "Where did you find it?" "It was hidden among some old papers in Father's study," James explained. "I don't think even Clara knows it exists. But if we bring it to Father now, before Clara can make her next move, it could change everything." Marianne nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. "We need to do this carefully. If Clara finds out, she'll do everything in her power to stop us." "I know," James said, his voice steady. "But I'm willing to take that risk if it means setting things right." Marianne felt a deep sense of gratitude toward James. He was risking a lot by standing up to Clara, and she knew that his decision to support her wasn't easy. But with his help, they had a real chance at changing the course of their family's future. The next morning, Marianne and James planned to confront Mr. Anderson with the letter. As they prepared for the conversation that could potentially alter the dynamics of the entire family, Marianne couldn't help but feel a mix of anxiety and hope. The stakes were higher than ever, and the outcome was uncertain. But she was no longer alone in this fight, and that made all the difference. The morning was filled with a tense anticipation as Marianne and James prepared to confront Mr. Anderson with the letter they had discovered. The document held the key to unraveling the web of lies and deceit that had kept Marianne's true identity hidden for so long. It was a risk, but they both knew it was a necessary one if they were to challenge Clara's control over the family. James had arranged a private meeting with their father in his study, ensuring that they wouldn't be interrupted. The study, with its dark wood paneling and shelves lined with books, had always been a place of authority and power within the Anderson household. This morning, it would serve as the stage for a pivotal moment in the family's history. Marianne felt a mix of nerves and determination as she stood outside the study door with James. He gave her a reassuring nod before knocking softly. Mr. Anderson's voice called them in, and they entered the room together. Mr. Anderson looked up from his desk, his expression curious but calm. James, Marianne, to what do I owe this visit? James stepped forward, holding the letter in his hand. Father, there's something we need to talk to you about. It's important, and it concerns the future of our family. Mr. Anderson's gaze shifted to the letter, and his expression grew more serious. What is it, son? James handed the letter to his father, his voice steady. I found this among some old papers in your study. It's a letter from Mother, written before she passed away. It explains everything about what happened between you and Marianne's mother, and it confirms that you wanted to acknowledge Marianne as your daughter. Mr. Anderson's hands trembled slightly as he took the letter, his eyes scanning the familiar handwriting. As he read, his face reflected a complex mixture of emotions: regret, sorrow, and a deep sadness for the choices he had made. Marianne watched in silence, her heart pounding in her chest. After what felt like an eternity, Mr. Anderson set the letter down, his eyes filled with unshed tears. I had forgotten about this letter, he said quietly. Your mother. She wanted me to do the right thing, but I was too afraid of what it would mean for the family. I let my fear control me, and I kept the truth buried. James placed a comforting hand on his father's shoulder. It's not too late to make things right, Father. We can't change the past, but we can make sure that the future is different. Mr. Anderson nodded slowly, his gaze shifting to Marianne. You've been through so much, Marianne, and I can't begin to apologize for the pain my decisions have caused you. But I want you to know that you are my daughter, and you have every right to be here, to be part of this family. Marianne felt a wave of relief and gratitude wash over her. Thank you, Mr. Anderson. That means more to me than you'll ever know. But even as the moment of reconciliation unfolded, there was a sense of unfinished business hanging in the air. Clara. Marianne knew that Clara would not accept this new reality without a fight, and they had to be prepared for her response. As if on cue, the door to the study swung open, and Clara entered the room, her expression one of cold fury. She had clearly overheard their conversation, and her eyes blazed with anger as she took in the sight of her father, James, and Marianne together. What is this? Clara demanded, her voice sharp. What are you all plotting behind my back? Mr. Anderson looked at his daughter with a mixture of sorrow and determination. Clara, we're not plotting anything. We're trying to set things right. I've made mistakes, many mistakes, and it's time to face the truth. Marianne is my daughter, and I intend to acknowledge her as such. Clara's face twisted with rage. You're making a terrible mistake, Father. She's manipulating you, using your guilt to worm her way into this family. She doesn't belong here. James stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. Clara, we found Mother's letter. It's proof that Father wanted to acknowledge Marianne long before any of this happened. This isn't about manipulation. This is about doing what's right. Clara's eyes narrowed and she turned her glare on Marianne. You think you can just waltz in here and take what's mine? This family is my legacy, my responsibility, and I won't let you destroy everything we've built. Marianne met Clara's gaze, refusing to be intimidated. I'm not here to take anything from you, Clara. I just want the truth to be recognized. This isn't about money or power. It's about honoring my mother's memory and finding my place in this family. Clara's lips curled into a sneer. Your mother? The woman who tried to tear this family apart? You think I'll let you turn her into some kind of martyr? You're delusional, Marianne. Mr. Anderson's voice cut through the tension, firm and authoritative. That's enough, Clara. Isabel was a good woman, and I loved her. I should have done right by her years ago, but I didn't. And now, I have the chance to make amends. Marianne deserves to be acknowledged, and you need to accept that. Clara's face paled, and for a moment, Marianne saw a flicker of vulnerability beneath her hardened exterior. But it was gone as quickly as it appeared, replaced by a mask of cold defiance. You're making a huge mistake, Father. If you go through with this, You'll destroy everything." Mr. Anderson sighed heavily, his gaze softening. "Clara, I know this is difficult for you. You've always been strong, always protected this family, but sometimes protecting the family means doing what's right, even if it's hard." Clara's hands clenched into fists at her sides, and for a moment Marianne feared she might lash out. But instead, Clara took a step back, her expression icy. "Fine," she said, her voice cold and detached. "Do what you want, but don't expect me to support this." With that, Clara turned on her heel and stormed out of the study, slamming the door behind her. The sound echoed through the room, leaving a heavy silence in its wake. Mr. Anderson slumped back in his chair, looking more tired than ever. "I failed her," he murmured, his voice thick with emotion. "I failed all of you." James moved to his father's side, placing a comforting hand on his shoulder. "You haven't failed, Father. You're doing the right thing now, and that's what matters." Marianne stood quietly, her heart heavy with the weight of what had just transpired. She knew that this wasn't the end of the struggle with Clara, but it was a crucial step in the right direction. The truth was finally out in the open, and Mr. Anderson had made it clear that he intended to acknowledge Marianne as his daughter. But as the tension began to ease, Marianne couldn't shake the feeling that Clara wasn't done yet. She had seen the look in Clara's eyes before she left, and it was a look that promised retribution. Marianne knew she had to be prepared for whatever came next, but for now, she took comfort in the fact that she wasn't alone in this fight. As she left the study, Marianne felt a mixture of relief and apprehension. The battle with Clara was far from over, but with James and Mr. Anderson on her side, she felt more confident than ever that they could weather whatever storm was coming. The truth was a powerful ally, and Marianne was determined to see this fight through to the end. The tension in the Anderson mansion had reached a boiling point. The revelation of Marianne's true identity and Mr. Anderson's decision to acknowledge her had sent shockwaves through the household. Clara's icy demeanor and cold glares had become a daily occurrence, and it was clear to everyone that she was not taking this turn of events lightly. Marianne tried to focus on the positive. Mr. Anderson had accepted her, and James was standing by her side. Even Emily had offered her support, quietly reassuring Marianne that she was welcome in the family. But the shadow of Clara's anger loomed large, and Marianne knew that a final confrontation was inevitable. It came sooner than she expected. One evening, as the household was winding down for the night, Marianne received a message from Clara, delivered by one of the maids. It was a simple note, written in Clara's precise handwriting. "Meet me in the West Wing study. We need to talk." Marianne's heart skipped a beat as she read the note. She knew this wasn't going to be a simple conversation. Clara had something planned, and Marianne had to be ready for whatever it was. She took a deep breath, steeling herself for what was to come, and made her way to the West Wing. The study was dimly lit when Marianne arrived, the shadows casting an eerie glow over the room. Clara was already there, standing by the large window that overlooked the estate. She didn't turn around when Marianne entered, but the tension in her posture was palpable. "You wanted to see me?" Marianne said, her voice steady despite the nerves she felt. Clara finally turned to face her, her expression cold and calculating. "Yes, I did," she replied, her voice devoid of warmth. "We need to settle this once and for all." Marianne nodded, meeting Clara's gaze. "I agree. This can't go on like this, Clara. We're family, whether you like it or not." Clara's eyes narrowed. "Family? Don't delude yourself, Marianne. You may share my father's blood, but that doesn't make you one of us. You're an outsider, and you always will be." Marianne felt a pang of hurt at Clara's words, but she didn't let it show. "I'm not here to take anything from you, Clara. I've said that from the beginning. I just want to honor my mother's memory and find my place in this family." Clara's lips curled into a bitter smile. "Your mother? She was a fool, just like you. She thought she could have everything, a life with my father, a place in this family. But she was wrong. just like you are now." Marianne took a step closer, her voice firm. "My mother didn't deserve what happened to her, and neither do I. This isn't about money or power, Clara. This is about the truth." Clara's eyes flashed with anger. "The truth? The truth is that you're nothing but a threat to everything I've worked for. I've spent my entire life protecting this family, and I won't let you destroy it." Marianne felt her own anger rising, but she kept it in check. "I'm not here to destroy anything, Clara. But you need to understand that you can't control everything. You can't rewrite history to suit your own needs." Clara's expression hardened. "You're naive, Marianne. This family has survived because of me. I've made the tough decisions, I've kept the secrets, and I've ensured that we remain powerful and respected. And I'm not about to let some stranger waltz in and tear it all apart." Marianne shook her head. "You're wrong, Clara. The truth is stronger than any lie, and sooner or later it will come out. You can't stop that." Clara's face twisted with fury. "We'll see about that," she hissed. "I've already spoken to our lawyers. I'm contesting Father's decision to acknowledge you as his daughter. Legally, you have no claim to this family, and I will make sure it stays that way." Marianne's heart pounded, but she refused to back down. "You can contest all you want, but that won't change the facts. The truth is on my side, Clara, and deep down, you know that." Clara's eyes blazed with anger, and for a moment Marianne thought she might lash out physically, but instead Clara took a deep breath, regaining her composure. "You think you've won, but you haven't," she said, her voice cold and measured. "This isn't over, Marianne, not by a long shot." Marianne met Clara's gaze, unflinching. "Maybe not, but I'm not going anywhere, Clara. I belong here whether you accept it or not." The two women stood in silence for a long moment, the tension between them almost unbearable. Finally, Clara turned away, her expression unreadable. "You've made your choice, Marianne," she said quietly. "And now, you'll have to live with the consequences." With that, Clara walked out of the study, leaving Marianne alone in the dimly lit room. The finality of Clara's words hung in the air, and Marianne felt a chill run down her spine. She knew that Clara wasn't bluffing. She would do everything in her power to contest Marianne's place in the family, and the battle was far from over. But Marianne also knew that she wasn't alone. She had the support of Mr. Anderson, James, and Emily, and she had the truth on her side. No matter what Clara threw at her, Marianne was determined to stand her ground and fight for her place in the family. As she left the study, Marianne felt a mix of emotions: fear, determination, and a deep sense of resolve. The confrontation with Clara had been intense, but it had also solidified Marianne's commitment to seeing this through. She knew that the road ahead would be difficult, but she was ready for whatever came next. The following days were filled with preparations. Mr. Anderson and James worked closely with the family's legal team, ensuring that Marianne's position was secure. Emily continued to offer her quiet support, reassuring Marianne that she was welcome in the family. But Clara was relentless. She contested every decision, challenged every move, and made it clear that she would not rest until Marianne was removed from the family once and for all. The legal battle that ensued was fierce, with both sides digging in for a long and arduous fight. Marianne spent many sleepless nights worrying about the outcome, but she never wavered in her determination. She had come too far to give up now, and she knew that she had to see this through, not just for herself, but for her mother's memory. As the legal battle dragged on, Marianne and her allies gathered more evidence to support her claim. They uncovered documents, testimonies, and more letters that painted a clear picture of Mr. Anderson's intent to acknowledge Marianne as his daughter. The truth was undeniable, and it became increasingly difficult for Clara to refute it. But Clara was nothing if not persistent. She used every tactic at her disposal, from legal maneuvers to emotional manipulation, trying to turn the tide in her favor. The stress took its toll on everyone, and the once unified Anderson family began to fracture under the pressure. Despite the challenges, Marianne remained resolute. She knew that this was the final stretch, the last battle that would determine her place in the family. And she was prepared to fight with everything she had. Finally, after weeks of intense legal wrangling, the day of the final hearing arrived. The Anderson family, their lawyers, and Marianne gathered in the mansion's grand hall, where the final decision would be announced. The atmosphere was tense, the weight of the moment pressing down on everyone in the room. As the judge prepared to deliver the verdict, Marianne's heart pounded in her chest. This was it, the moment that would decide everything. The judge's voice was steady as he read the ruling, his words clear and precise. After reviewing the evidence and considering all arguments, it is the court's decision that Marianne is the legitimate daughter of Mr. Anderson. Her place in the family is recognized, and her rights are upheld. Marianne felt a wave of relief wash over her, tears of gratitude welling up in her eyes. She had won. The truth had prevailed, and she had finally secured her place in the family. Clara's face was a mask of fury, but she said nothing. The battle was over, and she knew it. She stormed out of the room, leaving the rest of the family in stunned silence. Mr. Anderson approached Marianne, his eyes filled with emotion. "I'm so proud of you, Marianne," he said quietly. "You've shown incredible strength, and I'm honored to call you my daughter." Marianne smiled through her tears. "Thank you, Father. I couldn't have done it without you, without all of you." James and Emily joined them, offering their congratulations and support. The Anderson family, once divided by secrets and lies, was beginning to heal. As Marianne stood with her family, she knew that this was just the beginning of a new chapter in her life. The road ahead would still have its challenges, but she was ready to face them, knowing that she had finally found her place in the world. The relief that washed over Marianne after the court's decision was profound. For the first time since stepping foot into the Anderson mansion, she felt a sense of belonging. The weight of doubt and uncertainty had lifted, and the truth was finally out in the open. But as much as she wanted to believe that the worst was behind her, Marianne knew that Clara wouldn't go down quietly. The days following the court ruling were filled with a mix of cautious optimism and underlying tension. The staff, once divided, began to warm up to Marianne, recognizing her as part of the family. Mr. Anderson, James, and Emily were openly supportive, making it clear to everyone that Marianne was here to stay. But Clara's absence loomed large. She had retreated into her own world, spending long hours locked in her room or disappearing from the mansion entirely. No one knew what she was up to, but Marianne could feel the storm brewing. One evening, as Marianne was reading in the library, Emily approached her with a worried expression. "Marianne, I think you should see this," she said, holding out her phone. Marianne took the phone, her heart sinking as she saw the headline on the screen. "Anderson Family Scandal, Illegitimate Daughter Revealed." The article was filled with sensationalized details about the court case, the family's secrets, and Marianne's true identity. It was clear that someone had leaked the story to the press, and Marianne had no doubt who was behind it. "She's trying to destroy you in the public eye," Emily said quietly, her face pale. "Clara knows she can't win in court, so she's taking it to the media." Marianne's hands trembled as she read the article. The words were like knives, cutting deep as they painted her as a gold digger, a fraud, someone who had manipulated her way into the Anderson family. The impact on the family's reputation was immediate. Calls from the press flooded in, and the Anderson name was suddenly mired in scandal. Marianne looked up at Emily, her voice shaking. "What are we going to do?" Emily placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "We'll get through this, Marianne. We just need to stay strong and show the world who you really are." Marianne nodded, though the fear gnawed at her. She had never wanted this kind of attention, and the thought of her life being picked apart by the media was terrifying. But she knew that she couldn't let Clara's actions break her. She had come too far to give up now. The following morning, the Anderson mansion was abuzz with activity as the family's PR team arrived to manage the crisis. They advised the family to issue a public statement, one that would set the record straight and counter the damaging narrative that Clara had unleashed. Mr. Anderson, looking more weary than ever, gathered the family in the grand hall. "We need to present a united front," he said, his voice heavy with the weight of the situation. "This is an attack on all of us, and we have to show that we stand together." James and Emily nodded in agreement, but Marianne could see the strain in their eyes. This was the last thing any of them had wanted, but there was no choice now but to face it head on. As they prepared to issue the statement, Clara entered the room, her expression calm and composed, as if she had done nothing wrong. Marianne felt a surge of anger but forced herself to stay calm. "Clara," Mr. Anderson said, his tone stern, "what you've done is unacceptable. You've put our entire family in the spotlight for all the wrong reasons." Clara met her father's gaze with an unflinching stare. "I did what I had to do. The public deserves to know the truth." Marianne couldn't stay silent any longer. "The truth? You mean the twisted version of events you fed to the media?" "You're not interested in the truth, Clara. You're just trying to punish me because you lost." Clara's eyes narrowed, and for a moment, Marianne saw a flicker of something. Regret, maybe, or doubt. But it was quickly replaced by her usual icy resolve. "You think you've won, Marianne, but this isn't over. You've dragged this family through the mud, and I won't let you destroy everything we've built." Mr. Anderson's voice was firm as he spoke. "Clara, I've always respected your dedication to this family, but this has to stop. We're issuing a statement to the press, one that tells the real story, the full story." Clara's expression didn't change, but Marianne could sense the tension in her. "Do what you want," Clara said coldly, "but don't expect me to stand by and watch as you destroy our name." Mr. Anderson turned to Marianne, his voice softening. "Marianne, would you like to be part of the statement? You don't have to, but it might help to hear your voice." Marianne hesitated for a moment, the weight of the decision pressing down on her. She wasn't used to being in the public eye, and the thought of speaking out made her anxious. But then she remembered why she had fought so hard to be here, to honor her mother's memory, to find her place in this family. This was her chance to set the record straight, to show the world who she really was. "I'll do it," Marianne said, her voice steady. "I want people to know the truth." The family gathered in front of the cameras later that day, ready to address the media. Mr. Anderson spoke first, his voice calm and authoritative as he explained the situation, acknowledging Marianne as his daughter and expressing regret for the years of secrecy. When it was Marianne's turn to speak, she took a deep breath and stepped forward. The bright lights and the cameras were intimidating, but she focused on the message she wanted to convey. "My name is Marianne," she began, her voice strong and clear. "I'm proud to be part of the Anderson family, and I'm here today to tell the truth. My mother was a wonderful woman who loved Mr. Anderson deeply, and their relationship was one of mutual respect and care. I'm not here to take anything from this family. I'm here because I belong, because this is my family too. I'm grateful for the support I've received from Mr. Anderson, James, and Emily, and I want the world to know that we are united. We will get through this together." As Marianne spoke, she could feel the support of her family around her, giving her strength. When she finished, the room was filled with the hum of camera flashes and the murmurs of reporters. The statement had been made, and now it was up to the public to decide what to believe. But Marianne knew that no matter what happened, she had done the right thing. She had spoken her truth, and she had done so with the full support of her family. As they left the press conference, she felt a sense of closure. This chapter of her life was coming to an end, and a new one was beginning. However, Clara remained a looming presence, her final move still uncertain. Marianne knew that Clara wouldn't give up easily, but for the first time, she felt ready to face whatever came next. As the family returned to the mansion, Mr. Anderson placed a hand on Marianne's shoulder. "You did well, Marianne. Your mother would be proud." Marianne smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her. "Thank you, Father. I hope this will help people see the truth." James and Emily echoed their support, and Marianne felt a deep sense of gratitude for the family she had fought so hard to be a part of. The battle with Clara might not be over, But Marianne knew that she had already won the most important fight, earning her place in the family and honoring her mother's legacy. The days that followed were a whirlwind of media coverage and public opinion, but gradually, the storm began to subside. The public statement had done its job, and while there were still those who doubted, the majority began to see Marianne as a legitimate member of the Anderson family. Clara, however, remained distant, her next move uncertain. Marianne knew that this was far from over, but she also knew that she wasn't alone. With her family by her side, she was ready to face whatever the future held. The days following the press conference brought a sense of calm to the Anderson mansion. The media frenzy slowly died down, and while there were still lingering doubts among the public, Marianne had earned the respect of many who admired her courage and resilience. The family had stood united, and for the first time in a long time, there was a feeling of peace within the walls of the mansion. But despite the outward calm, Marianne knew that the tension with Clara had not yet been resolved. Clara had retreated even further into herself, barely speaking to anyone, and spending most of her time alone. The distance between Clara and the rest of the family had grown into a chasm, one that seemed impossible to bridge. Marianne couldn't shake the feeling that something was still unresolved. She knew that Clara was hurting, that her anger and resentment stemmed from a place of deep pain. Despite everything that had happened, Marianne didn't want to leave things like this. She wanted to try, one last time, to reach out to Clara, to find some way to heal the rift between them. One afternoon, Marianne found herself standing outside Clara's door, her hand poised to knock. She hesitated, unsure if this was the right move, but she knew that she had to try. Taking a deep breath, she knocked softly. There was a long pause before Clara's voice came from the other side. "What do you want?" Marianne's heart pounded in her chest. "Clara, it's me. Can we talk?" For a moment there was silence, and Marianne wondered if Clara would refuse. But then, the door opened slowly, and Clara stood there, her expression guarded. "What is there left to talk about?" Marianne stepped into the room, the atmosphere thick with unresolved tension. "I know things have been hard between us, and I know you're angry. But I don't want it to end like this, with us hating each other." Clara's eyes narrowed, but she didn't shut the door. Instead, she walked over to the window, looking out at the sprawling estate. "You don't understand, Marianne. This family is everything to me. I've spent my whole life protecting it, making sure we stay strong, stay together. And then you showed up and everything fell apart." Marianne took a step closer, her voice soft but firm. "I didn't come here to take anything away from you, Clara. I just wanted to find out the truth about my mother, to understand where I came from. I never wanted to hurt you or anyone else." Clara's shoulders tensed, and for a moment, she didn't speak. When she finally did, her voice was thick with emotion. "You're right, Marianne. I am angry. But more than that, I'm scared. I'm scared of losing everything I've worked for, of losing my place in this family." Marianne's heart ached at Clara's words. "You're not going to lose anything, Clara. You're still an important part of this family, and nothing will ever change that. But you don't have to fight this battle alone. We can find a way to move forward together, as a family." Clara turned to face Marianne, her eyes filled with a mixture of pain and doubt. "I don't know how to do that," she admitted quietly. "I've spent so long fighting, I don't know how to stop." Marianne took another step forward, closing the distance between them. "Then let's figure it out together. We don't have to agree on everything, and we don't have to be best friends, but we can try to find some common ground, for the sake of the family." Clara looked at her, the anger in her eyes softening into something more vulnerable. "Do you really think we can?" Marianne nodded, her voice gentle. "I do, but it's going to take time, and it's going to take effort from both of us. We have to be willing to let go of the past and focus on what's best for the future." Clara sighed, her gaze dropping to the floor. "I don't know if I can do that, Marianne, but maybe I can try." Marianne felt a glimmer of hope. "That's all I'm asking, Clara. Just try. For the family. For yourself." For a long moment they stood in silence, the weight of years of tension and resentment hanging between them. Then slowly Clara nodded. "All right, I'll try." Marianne smiled, a sense of relief washing over her. It wasn't a perfect resolution, but it was a start. And that was enough for now. Over the following weeks, the Anderson family began the slow process of healing. Clara remained distant at times, but she was no longer openly hostile. She made an effort to be present during family gatherings, to engage in conversations with Marianne and the others. It wasn't easy, and there were still moments of tension, but the change was noticeable. James and Emily continued to support Marianne, helping her navigate her new role within the family. Mr. Anderson, too, became more open and involved, taking an active interest in bridging the gap between his children. The mansion, once a place of secrets and lies, began to feel like a true home for the first time in years. Marianne, for her part, focused on building her relationships with each member of the family. She spent time with Emily, sharing stories and bonding over their shared experiences. She worked alongside James on various family projects, earning his respect and friendship. And she continued to reach out to Clara, determined to show her that they could coexist, that they could be sisters in more than just name. The transformation was slow but steady. The Anderson family, once fractured by secrets and lies, was beginning to heal. Marianne knew that there would always be challenges, that the past couldn't be erased entirely. But she also knew that they were on the right path, that they were building something stronger, something more honest. One evening, as the family gathered for dinner, Marianne looked around the table, feeling a sense of peace. The journey had been long and difficult, filled with obstacles and heartache, but it had been worth it. She had found her place in the family, not through manipulation or deceit, but through perseverance, honesty, and a willingness to face the truth. As they shared a meal, laughter and conversation filled the room, and for the first time, Marianne felt truly at home. She had fought for this, for the chance to be part of something real, something meaningful. And now, she was finally where she belonged. Later that night, after everyone had retired to their rooms, Marianne stepped out onto the balcony, the cool night air brushing against her skin. She looked out at the estate, the stars twinkling above, and took a deep breath, feeling a sense of closure. The past would always be a part of her, a part of the Anderson family. But it no longer defined them. They had faced their demons, confronted their secrets, and emerged stronger for it. And as Marianne stood there, she knew that this was just the beginning, a new chapter in a story that they would write together. As she turned to go back inside, she caught sight of Clara standing in the doorway, watching her. For a moment, they simply looked at each other, no words exchanged. But in that silence, there was an understanding, a truce of sorts. Clara gave her a small nod and Marianne returned it, a sense of mutual respect passing between them. They didn't need to say anything more. The future was theirs to shape, and for the first time, Marianne felt confident that they could do it together.